For many years, I wondered, like, what is the higher self? What does that even mean? And how do I communicate with my higher self? Like, what are these people talking about when they talk about communicating with the higher self? And once I had a full understanding, and you can watch it in one of my other videos, of the nature of reality, it all started to make sense. I realized that the self, the thing that I'm calling myself, this consciousness exists on all dimensions. So when I'm talking about talking to my higher self, I'm talking about communicating with the part of me that is existing and experiencing the higher dimensions of reality. So, like I said, go back and watch my video and you'll understand what my concept of reality is. But essentially, at the highest dimensions, we are a single consciousness. And what we do is break ourselves down using duality until we have male, female, dark light. We have the whole spectrum of frequency that we can experience here in this fourth dimension. So the higher self, the higher self that we're referring to typically when we say we're communicating with it, is the part of us that exists closest to this fourth dimensional experience, the part of us that exists outside of time, that remembers why we chose to journey here, that communicates with our soul family, the part of us that we see when we have near-death experiences, that type of thing. And when we talk about communicating with God, what we're typically talking about is communicating with that whole consciousness, that 10th dimension level consciousness. And the language of that part of us, because it's outside of time, because it's outside of the physical body, because it's outside of this whole experience, is not words. If you think about words, words are the way that we interpret everything that's happening, all that our soul is experiencing in this body in the present moment. And then a lot of times we're able to filter that, or it's our best attempt at converting that into a language that can be shared with other people at our same frequency, other people in the fourth dimension, fourth dimensional consciousness. So the language is not words. If we look at the different languages that we have on this planet, there's not words for some things in one language versus another language. My daughter constantly texts me, and she doesn't realize that her texts come through whether my phone is silenced or not. But anyway, I refuse to edit my videos, so sorry. So that language that we have here is just incomplete, right? And it's deceptive because we can form words with our mouth. Let's talk about work, for example. People talk about this all the time. If I'm at work, I've got to show up a certain way, right? So if I feel like garbage, if I hate my job, if I don't like a particular coworker, it's not appropriate for me to say that at work. But I feel it, right? And our higher self has access. It's like outside of us. It's kind of like when we're watching a movie, right? We can see scenes happening all over the place if we're watching the movie. We have a different perspective. We're looking at it holistically, whereas the character in the movie may not be aware of certain things that are happening in other parts of the movie. It's a similar thing with our higher self. Our higher self is watching us from a higher dimension, aware of every sensation, aware of what we are unable to bring to our conscious mind, aware of every thought, aware of every intention. And so we can't lie to our higher self with words. If I'm sitting here trying to communicate to my higher self, which has access to all the timelines, it can help me shift timelines. That's why we communicate with the higher self. I can't, as a 4D being, jump timelines, but my higher self can guide me towards a new experience because it can see all the timelines. So we can't lie to the higher self with words. It's aware of all that we're experiencing and really thinking and feeling. So if I claim that I want to be wealthy, right? I want to be so wealthy. I want so much money. And I'm scripting every day about it. I'm saying, oh, I have $6 million. I have $6 million. I have $6 million. I'm writing it 100 times a day. But every time I write it, I get a sensation in my body that I'm in danger. And a subconscious thought is playing in the background saying people with that much money are corrupted, or people with that much money are isolated. Nobody's going to want to spend time with you because you'll have too much money. Whatever it is, what the higher self is hearing is all of it. It's seeing that I'm writing repeatedly. It's catching the sensations in my body. And the overall message is that this is not safe. This is not what I want. So even though we're going through the motions of writing it down, the higher self can see that we really subconsciously don't want it. We're subconsciously afraid of it. So what our higher self is going to deliver to us is based on that holistic view of what's happening with us. The issue comes in when we lack self-awareness, when we're pushing down sensations or ignoring them, when we're lying to ourselves, and we get so frustrated because we think we're doing all the right things. But what we're communicating, we're forgetting, first of all, that how powerful we are. But what we're communicating to our higher self is something totally different. And we don't know what we're communicating because we are out of touch with ourselves. We lack self-awareness. So part of being able to effectively communicate with your higher self is being honest with yourself about what's going on. It's spending enough time introspecting, doing shadow work to understand your true motivations, to understand your true feelings about a thing. And I'm a person who's super self-aware, right? I've gotten very good at picking up on certain sensations, even just relying on people who are close to me to notice patterns as well, because I'm not always totally on. And I still think it's okay, as we're existing in this current reality, to play a part sometimes. I still have to play a part when I go to work. But while I'm showing up a certain way at work, I'm fully aware of what I really feel. I'm fully aware of what I really need, in each moment. So I'm not disconnected from myself. I don't disconnect from myself in order to show up a certain way. And when we are aligned in that way, when there's cohesiveness, when there's integrity just means you're the same all the time. You're the same through and through. It's easier to see what we're truly communicating to the higher self. And when there's that alignment there, when we know that that's what's happening, that's when manifestations speed up, because there's not this disconnect. There's not this, I'm writing, I have $6 million, but secretly hate money. You know what I mean? So there's not this disconnect in the relationship between the part of me that's here in the fourth dimension and the part of me that exists in the higher dimensions. There's alignment. And so I'm able to see and to recognize when my influence has caused something to come into my reality. So the first step to effectively communicating with your higher self is being honest with yourself. If things are being created in your life that are unwanted, it's because that's what you're telling your higher self that you want. And sometimes my belief is that when we plan out these lifetimes, sometimes we choose that disconnect because there are certain things that we want to experience. We don't want to remember that we have access to certain things because we want to explore the darkness. We want to explore despair. We want to explore sadness. All of it is part of the duality. All of it is divine. So, like I said, not everyone is supposed to understand this information, but some of us are, and that's who this message is for. So understanding the truth about your motivations, what's going on in your mind, what's going on emotionally, what's going on physiologically, is the key to being aligned with your higher self. I also believe there's people with special gifts, right? And I believe that's also something that we choose, either before we get here or after we've had some experience here in the 4D. And sometimes those people can still be disconnected from their true self, but they still have these gifts. Like they still have these channels that they've opened up to their higher self, whether they're a tarot card reader or an actual channeler, or they're clairvoyant, or whatever, it's possible to create these communication links with your higher self and still lack self-awareness. Because sometimes that is what's required for that particular soul's journey. That's something that you've chosen for this lifetime. So it's not a one size fits all. The point of this video was to clarify that the higher self does not speak in words only. The higher self picks up, like it's watching a movie, on everything that's going on. And it delivers to you what you say you want, not just with your words, not even just with your actions, but with your nervous system. Regulating your nervous system is a shortcut to improving what things come into your reality, because your higher self picks up on that physiological anxiety, on that raised heartbeat, that high blood pressure, that anger that's sitting in your lungs, that heat on the top of your head because you're about to explode. So being able to regulate that, and typically that happens, if you watch my last video, I talk about this a lot, but that happens when we reframe the meaning that we're assigning to things that have happened in our past, and we're reframing what our expectations are of the future. We can calm our nervous system and return to the present moment. That is actually the space that creates the best connection to your higher self, because you're clear, right? You're clear and calm. You're in touch with your actual thoughts, and you and your higher self are speaking the same language. So the fastest way to establish a good communication channel with your higher self is to get still, is mindfulness. It's nervous system regulation, getting into the present moment. You open up those channels. Now, your higher self is just like the cube that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. That cube actually exists in all 10 dimensions as well, but it's never separated from itself. The parts of it that exist in each dimension are intricately connected, right? So in the same way, we are never separated from our higher self. We're never separated from the parts of us that exist in the higher dimensions. Our ability to perceive those parts of ourselves and communicate in a two-way fashion is what can be blocked, because we're out of alignment. We have chosen, for whatever reason, not to be aware of the fullness of the truth of what we're experiencing. So the higher self is still there. It's still responding to you, even if you haven't established clear communication. Even if you think you're manifesting one thing and something else is coming into your life, that is still your higher self watching you, taking all the inputs from you, because your higher self is aware of you. It does understand all the dynamics at play, and it's giving you what you're asking for all the time, whether you have a good communication path and you can talk to your higher self or not. So that's the challenge that most of us face on this journey of understanding our reality and understanding how to change it to something that serves us. We have to really be honest with ourselves about who we are. We have to do that shadow work. We have to examine those deeply held motivations if we want that kind of relationship with the parts of us that exist in the higher dimensions, if we want to speak that language, if we want to be on higher timelines. I don't demonize any experience. If you choose to cut off communication with your higher self your entire life, you can't get it wrong, because that may be part of what your soul wanted to explore in this particular experience. But if you want that connection with your higher self, you have to get real with yourself. You have to stay present with yourself. You have to regulate that nervous system. You have to be aware of the reality of your experience. You have to be aware of the meanings that you're assigning to different things and how that's impacting your reaction to them. So the language of the higher self, that's what we mean when we say feeling is the secret. Or when we say you have to feel it first, you have to feel it real, you have to become the person. Becoming the person just means being able to regulate your nervous system enough, identify any limiting beliefs and eliminate them for you to be open to the possibility of the new reality that you want. That's what it requires in order for you to have that open communication, those quick manifestations, those quick downloads from your higher self. That's what it takes. So it's not just feeling, it's all of the things that can be observed outside of time and space that communicate messages to your higher self and impact your reality and what timelines you get to explore.